Welcome to Monk's Moon Temple. There is a famous story about a prince who left his palace and saw 4 sights that transformed human spiritual history. But tonight, we are not revisiting ancient tales. We are here to explore your story. The story of someone who has spent years searching for something just beyond reach. You know the feeling intimately. That quiet hum beneath the surface of every ordinary day. The persistent sense that if you could finally get the next thing right, the restlessness would stop. You have tried so many solutions. Better jobs. Better relationships. Better versions of yourself. And sometimes, for a moment, it works. The promotion arrives. The partner appears. For a brief window, the restlessness subsides. But then it returns. The sense of not enough returns. And you are left holding whatever you just acquired, wondering why the satisfaction evaporated. This is not a personal flaw. This is the human condition, observed and diagnosed thousands of years ago by someone who came to be known as the Buddha. He was born into privilege, into a world where every desire could be satisfied the moment it arose. He had every reason to believe that pleasure was the path. But he noticed something that those around him were too distracted to see. Pleasure fades. Satisfaction is temporary. And the mind, confronted with the fading of pleasure, immediately reaches for more. It is an endless loop, a treadmill that feels like progress but delivers only exhaustion. He saw this clearly, not as abstract philosophy, but as living truth. And what he discovered beneath the canopy of a tree was not a new religion. It was a radical reorientation of attention. He saw that humans have been searching for peace in all the wrong places. They look outside themselves when the peace they seek has been inside them all along, hidden beneath the noise of their own endless wanting. Let your body arrive now. Wherever you are, allow yourself to be fully present. Feel the surface supporting you. Feel the weight of your body pressing gently into that surface. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Notice your breathing. There is nothing you need to accomplish in the coming hours. No information to memorize. No technique to master. Only presence to cultivate. This is not a lecture. It is an invitation to set down the burdens you have been carrying without realizing it. The burden of always becoming. The burden of always arriving somewhere else. For these hours, you are not traveling anywhere. You are simply arriving, again and again, each breath a fresh homecoming. Let us clarify what the Buddha actually taught. He did not teach that desire is evil. He taught something far more nuanced. Suffering arises from a particular relationship with desire, not from desire itself. There is a vast difference between wanting water because you are thirsty and wanting water because you believe that having it will finally make you whole. The first desire is natural, biological, innocent. It arises, finds satisfaction, and dissolves. The second desire is psychological. It carries a story. The story whispers, "You will be complete when this arrives. You will finally be enough when that happens." That second kind of wanting, tangled with identity and self-worth, is what the Buddha identified as the root of suffering. Not because it is immoral, but because it cannot deliver what it promises. It offers satisfaction but provides only temporary relief that quickly transforms into new wanting. Like drinking salt water to quench deep thirst. The first sip seems helpful, but soon you are thirstier than before. Consider a woman named Carmen who lived in a coastal Spanish town. She was a flamenco dancer, celebrated for the fire she brought to every performance. When she danced, she became pure movement and passion. But in the spaces between performances, Carmen struggled. She was entering her late 40s, and her body was speaking a new language. Her knees complained. Her back ached after every show. She could no longer move as she once moved, and each limitation felt like personal betrayal. She feared the moment the music stopped because silence meant facing a body that seemed to be failing her. She consulted doctors, physiotherapists, alternative practitioners. Nothing worked. The body kept aging. The pain persisted. And with each new limitation, her sense of self eroded further. She was the dancer. If she could not dance as she once danced, who remained? One afternoon, after exhausting rehearsal, she sat alone in the studio. Late sunlight stretched across wooden floors. She was too depleted for tears. She simply sat, feeling the throb in her knees, the tightness winding through her back. And then, without conscious decision, she began paying attention differently. Not to thoughts about the pain. Not to stories about what the pain meant. Just to the raw sensations themselves. The throb. The ache. The heat. She observed with curiosity, like a scientist noticing a phenomenon. And something shifted. The sensations did not vanish, but they stopped being enemies. They became just sensations. Uncomfortable. Painful. But no longer judgments upon her worth. No longer evidence of failure. Just what a body feels after 40 years of passionate use. In that moment of simple, non-judgmental attention, Carmen touched something that had been present all along beneath the pain and fear. She touched awareness itself. The awareness watching the sensations. The awareness that had observed everything her entire life, unnoticed because it was always directed outward. She realized she was not the pain. She was not the aging body. She was the one who knew the pain. She was the space in which all experience appeared. And that space had never been injured. It had never been diminished by any limitation. If what you are hearing resonates, if this gentle approach to living feels like a direction you want to explore further, consider subscribing to Monk's Moon Temple. It is a simple way to support this work and to ensure that more moments of stillness find their way into your life. You can do that now if it feels right. If not, simply stay here. The invitation remains open either way. Let us move now to another person, someone whose struggle was not with her body but with her own mind. His name was Daniel, and he lived in a bustling city in the Pacific Northwest. He was a graphic designer, talented and successful by any external measure. But Daniel carried an internal passenger that never left him alone. That passenger was a voice of relentless self-criticism. It commented on everything he did. It told him his work was not good enough, that his colleagues were judging him, that he was one mistake away from being exposed as a fraud. This voice had been with him as long as he could remember. He assumed it was just who he was. Some people are confident. He was not. That was simply the hand he had been dealt. He tried to outrun the voice through achievement. If he could just win that award, if he could just get that promotion, if he could just prove himself enough times, surely the voice would finally fall silent. But it never did. Each achievement quieted it for a day, maybe two. Then it returned, stronger than before, pointing out all the ways he could have done better, all the people who were still ahead of him. Daniel was exhausted. He was successful and miserable, surrounded by people and utterly alone with the voice in his head. One weekend, a friend invited him to a cabin in the mountains. No cell service. No internet. Just trees and a lake and silence. Daniel agreed reluctantly, expecting to be bored and anxious the entire time. The first day was exactly as he predicted. The voice filled the silence with complaints. "This is pointless. You have work to do. You are wasting time." But on the second morning, he woke early and walked down to the lake by himself. Mist was rising off the water. The surface was perfectly still, reflecting the surrounding pines like a mirror. He sat on a fallen log and just watched. For a few minutes, the voice continued its commentary. "Pretty view. You should take a picture for Instagram. How long do you have to sit here before you can go back?" But then something unusual happened. He became more interested in the lake than in the voice. He watched the way the mist moved, curling and dissolving into nothing. He watched the perfect stillness of the water. And in that watching, the voice gradually became quieter, not because he was fighting it, but because he was no longer feeding it with his attention. It was like background noise at a party that you stop noticing when you become deeply engaged in conversation. He sat there for over an hour. When he finally stood up, his legs were stiff, but something inside him felt lighter. He realized something profound in that moment. The voice had not disappeared. It was still there, somewhere in the background. But he had discovered that he did not have to listen to it. He had discovered that he was not the voice. He was the one noticing the voice. He was the lake, not the mist. The mist came and went, rising and dissolving, but the lake remained, still and deep and undisturbed. He carried this realization back to the city with him. It did not transform him overnight. The voice still spoke. But now he knew something the voice did not want him to know. He knew that he was the space in which the voice appeared. And that space could never be threatened by anything the voice said. This is exactly what the Buddha pointed to when he spoke about the nature of mind. The mind generates thoughts the way the lungs generate breath and the heart generates blood. It is what minds do. The problem is not the thinking. The problem is that we believe the thoughts. We take them as true. We let them define us. And in doing so, we hand over our peace to a relentless inner commentator who knows nothing except how to criticize and crave and compare. The Buddha offered a different relationship with thought. Not suppression. Not warfare. Simply noticing. Seeing a thought as a thought, not as a command, not as a truth, not as an identity. Just a mental event arising and passing away in the vast space of awareness. There is a metaphor he used, different from the ones you may have heard. He compared the mind to a clear blue sky. Thoughts are like clouds passing through. Some clouds are dark and stormy. Some are light and fluffy. Some bring rain. Some bring shade. But the sky is never changed by any of them. The sky remains what it always was, clear and vast and open. The clouds come. The clouds go. The sky is untouched. You are the sky. Your thoughts are simply weather. And weather, no matter how dramatic, never harms the sky. It just passes through. When you forget this, you get lost in the clouds. You believe you are the storm. But when you remember, even for a moment, you rest as the sky. And in that resting, peace is not something you achieve. It is something you recognize as already and always present. Let us now consider someone whose suffering came not from her own mind but from the actions of another person. Her name was Nora, and she lived in a quiet town in the Irish countryside. She had a sister named Siobhan, 3 years younger, and their relationship had been strained for as long as either could remember. There was no single event that caused the rupture. It was more like a slow accumulation of small wounds, tiny cuts that never fully healed. A forgotten birthday. A dismissive comment at a family gathering. A competition between them that neither acknowledged but both felt deeply. By the time they reached their 40s, the distance between them was vast. They saw each other at Christmas and funerals, exchanged polite words, and retreated back into their separate lives with relief. Nora told herself she had made peace with this. Some sisters are close. Some are not. That is simply how life works. But beneath the acceptance, there was a dull, persistent ache. A sadness that she carried without examining. She would feel it sometimes late at night, or when she saw other sisters laughing together in a cafe. It was a low-grade grief that had become so familiar she barely noticed it anymore. It was simply part of the background noise of her life. One spring afternoon, Nora received a letter. Not an email, not a text, but a handwritten letter delivered to her door. It was from Siobhan. Nora sat at her kitchen table for a long time before opening it, the envelope heavy in her hands. Her mind immediately began spinning stories. What does she want? Is someone sick? Is this about money? When she finally opened it, she found pages of small, careful handwriting. Siobhan wrote about her own memories of their childhood. The time Nora defended her from a schoolyard bully. The way Nora used to braid her hair before school because their mother was already gone to work. The summer they spent building a fort in the field behind their house, a place that belonged only to them. She wrote about how she had pushed Nora away over the years, not because she did not love her, but because loving felt dangerous. Their family had not been good at love. Their parents were kind but distant, offering provision instead of presence. Their father worked double shifts and came home exhausted. Their mother moved through the days in a quiet haze of unexpressed sadness. Siobhan had learned that closeness led to disappointment. So she had protected herself by building walls. And Nora, in her own way, had built walls too. The letter ended with 3 simple words. I am sorry. Nora read the letter 3 times. Then she sat in the silence of her kitchen, watching the afternoon light shift across the table. She had spent years telling herself a story about Siobhan. The story said Siobhan was cold, judgmental, unloving. The story made Nora the victim and Siobhan the villain. It was a comfortable story in its own painful way. It explained everything. It justified the distance. It allowed Nora to feel righteous in her resentment. But the letter cracked the story open. She saw that Siobhan was not a villain. She was a person, carrying her own wounds, acting from her own conditioning, doing the best she could with what she had been given. The coldness Nora had experienced was not rejection. It was fear. It was self-protection. It was the only way Siobhan knew how to be in the world. And Nora saw something else too. She saw that she had been doing the same thing, just in a different way. Her own walls were just as high, just as thick. She had simply told herself a different story about why they were there. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke about seeing clearly. Not seeing what you want to see. Not seeing through the filter of your own stories and assumptions. Seeing what is actually there. Another person, in all their complexity, in all their suffering, in all their longing to be happy and free from pain. When you see clearly, the stories fall away. The villain becomes a human being. The enemy becomes a fellow traveler on the same difficult road. And in that seeing, something shifts inside you. The anger softens. The resentment loosens. Not because the other person has changed, but because you have stopped adding your own suffering to the situation. You have stopped shooting the second arrow. The Buddha taught that all beings, without exception, share the same fundamental wish. They wish to be happy. They wish to be free from suffering. This wish is not always visible on the surface. It can be buried beneath layers of hurt and fear and conditioning. It can express itself in strange and sometimes harmful ways. But it is always there, at the core of every person you meet. The person who cut you off in traffic wants to be happy. The colleague who undermined you wants to be happy. The family member who hurt you most deeply wants to be happy. They just do not know how. They are reaching for happiness in the only ways they have learned, ways that often cause pain to themselves and others. When you see this, truly see it, something fundamental shifts. You can no longer hate someone once you recognize yourself in them. You can no longer hold on to resentment once you see the suffering beneath the behavior. This is not forgiveness as a moral duty. It is forgiveness as a natural result of clear seeing. You see the whole picture, not just the part that hurt you. And in that seeing, the weight you have been carrying begins to lighten. Let us now turn to someone whose struggle was with time itself. His name was Marcus, and he lived in a fast-paced city in Southern California. He was a successful architect, known for designing buildings that seemed to float, that captured light in unexpected ways. His work was celebrated, featured in magazines, studied by younger architects. But Marcus lived in a perpetual state of urgency. He was always running behind, always trying to catch up, always feeling that there were not enough hours in the day. He woke each morning already behind schedule. He ate lunch at his desk while answering emails. He lay in bed at night mentally reviewing everything he had not accomplished. His mind lived almost entirely in the future, in the land of what needed to be done next. He had tried all the usual solutions. Time management systems. Productivity apps. Early mornings and late nights. He read books about efficiency and attended workshops on focus. Nothing made a dent in the feeling of being perpetually behind. The problem, he eventually realized, was not his schedule. The problem was his relationship with time itself. He was always trying to get somewhere else, always treating the present moment as an obstacle to be overcome on the way to a future moment that never arrived. He was living his life on a treadmill, running hard but going nowhere. The future kept receding like a horizon you can never reach. And his life, his actual lived experience, was slipping through his fingers moment by unnoticed moment. One summer, his firm sent him to a small village in the Italian countryside to oversee a restoration project. It was an old stone church, centuries old, needing careful attention from someone who understood both structure and beauty. Marcus arrived with his usual urgency, bags packed with productivity tools, ready to push the project forward at maximum speed. But the village had other plans. The local craftsmen worked at a different pace. They stopped for long lunches, spreading bread and cheese on weathered tables beneath ancient trees. They took breaks to talk and laugh, conversations that meandered without destination. They left work each day at a reasonable hour to have dinner with their families, to watch the sunset, to simply be. Marcus was frustrated at first. He pushed. He complained. He tried to impose his city rhythms on this ancient place. He explained the deadlines, the budget constraints, the importance of efficiency. Nothing worked. The craftsmen simply smiled and continued at their own pace, a pace that had served this village for generations before Marcus was born. One afternoon, frustrated and exhausted from another day of what he perceived as resistance, Marcus sat on a stone wall overlooking the valley where the village nestled. The sun was warm on his face, a warmth that seemed to soak into his bones. The only sounds were birds and the distant clang of a goat bell echoing across the hills. He had no emails to check because there was no signal. He had no meetings to attend because no one had scheduled any. He had nothing to do but sit. For the first few minutes, his mind raged against the emptiness. This is a waste of time. You should be working. You are falling behind. Your career is slipping away while you sit here doing nothing. But gradually, like water finding its level, like sediment settling in a still pond, his mind began to quiet. He started to notice things he had not seen before, though they had been there all along. The way the light fell across the valley in golden sheets. The ancient stones of the wall beneath him, worn smooth by centuries of sitting, by countless others who had rested here before him. The taste of the air, warm and fragrant with wild herbs growing on the hillsides. He sat for over an hour. And in that hour, he touched something he had been chasing his entire life without knowing it. He touched the present moment. Not as a concept, not as something he had read about in books or heard about in workshops, but as a living, breathing reality. He realized something profound in that hour. For his entire adult life, he had been treating the present as a means to an end. The present was just the annoying thing you had to get through to reach the future. It was the waiting room for the life that would finally begin when everything was in order. But sitting on that stone wall, watching the light change moment by moment, he saw that the present was not a means to anything. It was all there ever was. The future never arrives. It is always now. And he had been missing every single now, chasing a future that would never come, a destination that would always remain just beyond reach. This is exactly what the Buddha pointed to when he spoke about the nature of time and the trap of becoming. We are always trying to become something other than what we are. We are always trying to get somewhere other than where we are. And in that endless striving, we miss the only moment that ever actually exists. The present moment is not a stepping stone to something better. It is the whole show. It is the only place where life happens. The past is memory, fragile and selective. The future is imagination, pure speculation. Only the present is real. And when you miss the present, you miss your life. You miss the only thing you ever actually had. Let us now consider someone whose suffering came from a source that may surprise you. Her name was Yuki, and she lived in a bustling district of Tokyo. She was a successful pastry chef, renowned for creations that were almost too beautiful to eat. Her tiny shop had lines down the street each morning. People traveled from other cities just to taste her work. By any external measure, Yuki had achieved something remarkable. She had taken a childhood passion and transformed it into a life of recognition and abundance. But Yuki carried a secret that almost no one knew. She could not taste her own food. It was not a physical condition. Her taste buds functioned perfectly. It was a psychological condition, a kind of dissociation that had grown worse over the years. She would spend hours crafting a new dessert, adjusting ingredients with scientific precision, and when it was finished, when she finally placed it on her tongue, she tasted nothing. Not literally nothing. She tasted sugar, butter, chocolate. But she could not taste the love, the care, the hours of effort. She could not taste the thing that made her creation special. She tasted only the technical execution, never the soul. This had been going on for so long that she had almost forgotten what it felt like to truly enjoy food. Eating had become a mechanical process, fuel for a body that needed to keep working. The joy had leaked out somewhere along the way, and she did not know how to get it back. One evening, after closing the shop, Yuki sat alone in the kitchen. The day's unsold pastries were arranged on a tray, perfect little sculptures of cream and fruit. She was too tired to clean, too tired to go home, too tired to do anything but sit. She picked up a small fruit tart, the kind she had made thousands of times. She held it in her hand, feeling its weight, its coolness. And then, instead of eating it mechanically while thinking about tomorrow's orders, she did something different. She looked at it. Really looked. She noticed the way the light caught the glaze on the strawberries. She noticed the precise pattern of the sliced kiwi, the delicate piping of cream along the edge. She noticed the craftsmanship, her own craftsmanship, as if seeing it for the first time. She brought it to her nose and inhaled. The fragrance of butter and vanilla and ripe fruit filled her senses. She held it there for a long moment, just breathing it in. Then she took a small bite. And for the first time in years, she tasted it. Not just the ingredients. She tasted the morning she had spent selecting those strawberries at the market. She tasted the patience required to pipe that cream just so. She tasted the decades of practice that made this simple tart possible. She tasted her own life, concentrated into a single bite. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke about the importance of presence, of bringing full attention to even the smallest activities. We rush through our lives as if they are dress rehearsals for something more important. We eat without tasting. We walk without feeling the ground. We listen without hearing. We touch without sensing. And in this constant rushing, we miss the very thing we are seeking. We miss the richness that is already here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice. Yuki's experience with the fruit tart changed something fundamental in her relationship with her work. Not overnight, not dramatically, but gradually. She began to practice what the Buddha taught about bringing attention to ordinary moments. She started with her morning tea. Instead of drinking it while checking orders or planning the day, she would sit for 5 minutes with just the tea. She would feel the warmth of the cup in her hands. She would watch the steam rise and disappear. She would taste each sip as if it were the first tea she had ever tasted. Then she extended this practice to her work. While rolling dough, she paid attention to the feel of it beneath her hands, the way it transformed from stiff to supple. While arranging fruit on a tart, she noticed the colors, the textures, the way each piece found its place. While cleaning her workspace at the end of the day, she felt the warm water on her hands, the satisfaction of returning order to chaos. Her work did not change. Her life did not change. But everything changed. The same actions that had felt like drudgery began to feel like meditation. The same pastries that had tasted like nothing began to taste like everything. The Buddha taught that the quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. Not the quantity of your possessions. Not the level of your achievement. Not the approval of others. The quality of your attention. You can live in a palace and be miserable if your attention is trapped in worry and regret. You can live in a small room and be deeply content if your attention is fully present with what is. The object of attention matters far less than the attention itself. A simple piece of fruit, eaten with full awareness, can be a profound experience. A gourmet meal, eaten while distracted, is just fuel. Yuki discovered that the joy she had been seeking was not in the next recipe, the next recognition, the next achievement. It was in the ordinary moments she had been rushing past her entire life. It was in the taste of a strawberry, finally noticed. Let us now turn to someone whose struggle was with the weight of expectations. His name was Amir, and he lived in a bustling city in the Middle East. He was the eldest son in a large family, and from his earliest memories, he had carried a burden that was never spoken aloud but was felt in every interaction. He was supposed to be the one who succeeded. He was supposed to be the one who made the family proud. He was supposed to be the one who lifted everyone else. This expectation was not cruel. It was delivered with love, with pride, with the best of intentions. His father had worked hard his entire life to give his children opportunities he never had. And Amir was determined not to waste those opportunities. He threw himself into his education, then into his career, then into building a life that would justify all the sacrifice. He worked 14-hour days. He took every opportunity for advancement. He sent money home regularly, more than they asked for, more than they expected. But beneath all the achievement, there was a quiet exhaustion that never left him. It was the exhaustion of living for others, of carrying a weight that was never meant to be his alone. He did not know how to put it down. He did not know who he would be without it. The expectations had become so woven into his identity that removing them felt like removing a part of himself. One evening, after another 16-hour day, Amir sat alone on the balcony of his apartment. The city sprawled below him, millions of lights, millions of lives, each one carrying its own invisible burdens. He felt empty, hollowed out by a day of doing. And in that emptiness, a question arose that he had never allowed himself to ask. What do I want? Not what does my family want? Not what is expected of me? Not what will make everyone proud? What do I actually want, for myself, with my one precious life? The question hung in the air, unanswered. He did not know. He had spent so long living for others that he had lost touch with his own desires, his own preferences, his own sense of what brought him joy. He had become a stranger to himself. This is a form of suffering that the Buddha understood deeply. He had been raised with immense expectations, destined for power and luxury. He had left all of it not because he was irresponsible, but because he recognized that living according to others' expectations, no matter how noble, was not the path to freedom. The path to freedom required something more difficult. It required looking inward, questioning everything he had been told, and discovering for himself what was true. He called this the path of inquiry, the path of direct investigation. Not accepting things because they are traditional, or because they are expected, or because everyone else believes them. But seeing for yourself, testing for yourself, knowing for yourself. Amir began his own inquiry in small ways. He started paying attention to the moments in his day that felt different. A walk in a park near his office, taken not because it was efficient but because he enjoyed it. A book he read not because it would advance his career but because it interested him. A conversation with a friend that had no purpose except connection. These small acts of choosing for himself felt strange at first, almost selfish. But gradually, they began to reveal something that had been hidden from him. He had a self beneath the expectations. He had preferences beneath the obligations. He had a life that belonged to him, not just to the people who loved him. There is a teaching the Buddha gave about the nature of self that is often misunderstood. He did not say there is no self. He said the self we usually identify with, the fixed, permanent, unchanging self we spend our lives protecting and promoting, is a construct. It is made of stories, of conditioning, of expectations absorbed from others. When you look closely for this solid, permanent self, you cannot find it. What you find instead is a process, a flowing, a constant arising and passing away of sensations, perceptions, thoughts, feelings. The self is not a thing. It is a verb. It is a continuous activity of identifying, of claiming, of saying, this is mine, this is me, this is myself. And when you see this clearly, something shifts. You are no longer trapped in the story of who you should be. You are free to discover who you actually are, moment by moment, choice by choice. Amir's journey did not end in a dramatic break from his family. He did not quit his job or move to a monastery. That would have been just another story, another identity to perform. Instead, something quieter happened. He began to make small choices from a different place. When his family made requests, he considered them honestly, not automatically. When opportunities arose, he asked himself not just whether they would impress others, but whether they would bring him alive. He began to inhabit his own life, rather than performing it for an audience. The weight of expectations did not disappear, but it became lighter. It became something he could carry without being crushed by it. Because he had discovered something essential. He was not the weight. He was the one choosing to carry it, and he could also choose, moment by moment, to set it down. Let us now consider someone whose struggle was with loss. Her name was Claire, and she lived in a small town in the English countryside. She had been married to a man named Thomas for 37 years. They had grown up together, grown old together, built a life that was quiet and steady and full of the kind of love that doesn't make grand gestures because it doesn't need to. Thomas knew how she took her tea. She knew which silences meant he was tired and which meant he was happy. They had raised children together, buried parents together, survived the ordinary crises that every long marriage endures. Their love was not the stuff of novels or films. It was deeper than that. It was the love of two people who had chosen each other every day for nearly 4 decades, through sickness and health, through good times and hard, through all the ways that people change as they move through life. And then, on a Tuesday morning in October, Thomas died. A heart attack, sudden and without warning. One moment he was there, reading the newspaper at the kitchen table, the steam rising from his tea. The next moment he was gone. Claire moved through the following months in a fog. She did what needed to be done. She made the calls. She accepted the casseroles. She answered the same questions from well-meaning neighbors who meant well but could not possibly understand. But beneath the surface of functioning, beneath the polite responses and the brave face, there was a vast, empty space that nothing could fill. The house was too quiet. The bed was too large. The routines that had structured her life for decades now seemed meaningless, hollow rituals performed by rote. Who makes tea for one when you have spent 37 years making it for two? Who reads aloud to an empty room when the person who loved your voice is no longer there to hear it? The grief was not just emotional. It was physical. It lived in her chest like a permanent weight, pressing down, making it hard to breathe, hard to eat, hard to remember why any of it mattered. She would wake in the night and reach for him, only to find empty space. Each time, the loss was fresh, as if he had just died again. Her well-meaning friends offered the usual comforts. He's in a better place. Time heals all wounds. You have to stay strong for the children. None of it helped. The words bounced off the grief without penetrating it, without reaching the place where she actually lived. Claire stopped going out. She stopped answering the phone. She sat in the house they had shared, surrounded by his things, his books still on the shelves, his reading glasses still on the nightstand, his favorite sweater still hanging by the door. She felt herself disappearing into the space he had left behind, dissolving into the absence, becoming less real with each passing day. One afternoon, about 6 months after Thomas died, Claire's daughter came to visit. She found her mother sitting in the garden, staring at the rose bushes Thomas had planted years ago when they first moved into the house. They were overgrown now, tangled and wild, in desperate need of the care Thomas had always given them. The daughter sat beside her on the weathered wooden bench and said nothing for a long time. The silence was comfortable, the way silences had always been between them. Then she asked a simple question. What was Dad's favorite thing about these roses? Claire thought about it. She remembered Thomas coming in from the garden, dirt on his knees, holding a single bloom with the tenderness of someone holding something precious. She remembered the way he would smell it, close his eyes, and smile with a contentment that seemed to come from somewhere very deep. She remembered him saying once, years ago, that roses don't bloom for anyone. They just bloom. That's what makes them beautiful. They aren't trying to impress you. They aren't performing for an audience. They just are what they are, fully and completely, without pretense or effort. In that memory, something shifted inside Claire. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, like the first crack in a dam that has held back a vast reservoir. She saw that Thomas had not been trying to leave her something to hold on to. He had not been preparing her for this loss. He had just been living, fully and simply, the way the roses just bloomed. His life had been complete in each moment, not reaching for something else, not trying to be more than it was. The grief was still there, vast and real and overwhelming. But beneath it, for the first time since that Tuesday morning in October, she felt something else stirring. Gratitude. Not for the loss, never for the loss. But for the having. For 37 years of tea and silences and roses. For a love that had been real enough, deep enough, true enough to leave this ache behind. The ache was the shape he had occupied in her life. It was proof that something precious had been there, that it had mattered, that it had been real. And that proof, that shape of absence, was itself a kind of presence. Let us now consider someone whose struggle was with success itself. His name was Victor, and he lived in a gleaming city of glass towers and endless ambition. He was a hedge fund manager, one of the best in the world at what he did. He had more money than he could spend in several lifetimes. He owned homes in 3 countries, cars that most people only see in magazines, a network of influence that opened any door he cared to knock on. By every external measure, Victor had won the game of life. He had achieved what countless others only dream of achieving. And he was deeply, profoundly miserable. The misery was not obvious to anyone who knew him. He was skilled at performing happiness, at saying the right things, at projecting the image of a man who had everything. But beneath the performance, there was a hollow emptiness that nothing seemed to fill. The money didn't fill it. The homes didn't fill it. The admiration of others didn't fill it. He would close a deal worth millions, feel a brief surge of satisfaction, and then within hours, sometimes within minutes, the emptiness would return, hungry for the next thing. He was living on a treadmill that went nowhere, running faster and faster, exhausted beyond measure, but unable to stop because stopping felt like failure. He had tried all the usual remedies for the misery of success. He had taken up expensive hobbies. He had traveled to exotic places. He had donated large sums to charities, hoping that generosity might unlock something that acquisition could not. Nothing worked. The emptiness remained, patient and unchanging, waiting for him behind every pleasure, every achievement, every distraction. One winter, on the advice of a friend who had noticed his exhaustion, Victor agreed to attend a silent meditation retreat in the mountains of Northern California. He was deeply skeptical. Sitting in silence seemed like the opposite of everything that had made him successful. But he was also desperate enough to try anything. The first 3 days were torture. His mind raged against the silence, against the inactivity, against the absence of stimulation. It replayed old deals, planned future strategies, rehearsed conversations that would never happen. He wanted to leave. He almost left a dozen times. But something kept him there, some faint hope that maybe, just maybe, there was something he had been missing. On the 4th day, during a walking meditation in the redwood forest surrounding the retreat center, something shifted. He was walking slowly, absurdly slowly, paying attention to each micro-movement of his feet. Lift. Move. Place. Lift. Move. Place. His mind was still chattering, still complaining, still trying to pull him back into its familiar patterns. But beneath the chatter, for just a few seconds, he noticed something else. He noticed the enormous trees surrounding him, ancient beings that had stood in this place for centuries, completely unconcerned with his success, his money, his status. They just stood, quietly, fully, completely themselves. He noticed the quality of the light filtering through the branches, soft and golden and entirely indifferent to his opinions about it. He noticed the feeling of the earth beneath his feet, solid and supportive, asking nothing from him. For those few seconds, the chatter stopped. Not because he silenced it, but because he had become more interested in something else. He had become interested in what was actually here, rather than what his mind was telling him about it. In that moment, Victor touched something that all his money could not buy. He touched presence. He touched the simple fact of being alive, without the filter of achievement, without the need to become something more. He saw, with a clarity that shocked him, that he had spent his entire life trying to become someone, trying to prove something, trying to fill a hole that could never be filled by anything he acquired. The hole was not in his life. The hole was in his attention. He had been looking everywhere except where he actually was. He had been reaching for everything except what was already here. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke about the trap of becoming. We spend our lives trying to become something other than what we are. We believe that peace is on the other side of achievement, that contentment is just beyond the next goal. But the peace we seek is not in becoming. It is in being. It is in the full, open, non-judgmental awareness of what is already here. The redwood trees do not try to become better redwood trees. They just grow, silently, patiently, fully present in each moment. The sun does not try to become a better sun. It just shines, giving itself completely, without holding back. The earth does not try to become a better earth. It just supports, endlessly, asking nothing in return. These things do not suffer because they are not trying to be somewhere else. They are fully where they are. And in that fullness, there is peace. Victor did not leave the retreat and give away all his money. That would have been just another performance, another identity to inhabit. Instead, something quieter happened. He began to bring the attention he had discovered in the redwood forest into his ordinary life. He began to notice small things. The taste of his morning coffee. The feeling of sunlight on his face during a walk. The sound of his children's laughter. These things had always been there. He had simply been too busy becoming to notice being. And in that noticing, the emptiness began, slowly, imperceptibly, to fill. Not with more things, more achievements, more success. But with the simple, profound richness of being alive. Let us now turn to someone whose struggle was with the fear of death. His name was Samuel, and he lived in a quiet retirement community in Florida. He was 82 years old, a former teacher of literature who had spent his life immersed in the great works of human civilization. He had taught Shakespeare and Dante, Homer and Virgil. He had explored with his students the deepest questions humans have ever asked. But now, facing the end of his own story, he found that all his learning could not quiet the fear that arose in the dark hours of the night. The fear was not constant. It came in waves, usually in the early morning when sleep had abandoned him and the house was silent. It was the fear of ceasing to exist. The fear of the vast unknown. The fear that all he had been, all he had loved, all he had learned would simply dissolve into nothing. He had watched friends die. He had watched his wife of 53 years disappear into the fog of Alzheimer's long before her body followed. He knew, intellectually, that death was natural, inevitable, the final chapter of every life. But knowing it in his mind was different from feeling it in his body. And in his body, in the quiet hours before dawn, he felt only terror. One morning, after another sleepless night, Samuel sat on his porch watching the sun rise over the golf course where he no longer played. The sky shifted through colors he could not name, pinks and oranges and soft golds. A bird sang somewhere nearby, a simple melody repeated over and over. And for no reason he could identify, a line from a poem he had taught decades ago surfaced in his memory. It was from a medieval Persian poet, a man named Rumi who had also wrestled with these questions. The line was simple. Die before you die. Samuel had explained this line to generations of students. He had told them it meant to die to the ego, to die to attachment, to die to the small self so that you could live fully in the larger self. He had explained it brilliantly, eloquently, completely missing the point. Sitting on that porch, watching the sunrise, he understood it for the first time. The fear of death, he saw, was not really about death. It was about the desperate clinging to a self that was already passing away. The self he was trying to protect, the self he was terrified of losing, was not a solid thing. It was a collection of memories, stories, habits, preferences, all of them changing, all of them impermanent. The boy he had been at 10 was gone. The young man who fell in love with his wife was gone. The teacher who stood before classrooms full of eager students was gone. They had all died, and he had survived each death. What remained was not a fixed self but a process, a flowing, a continuous arising and passing away. And this flowing, this process, this aliveness, had never been born and would never die. It was not his possession. It was not his achievement. It was simply what he was, beneath all the stories. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke about the deathless. Not a place you go after you die. Not a reward for good behavior. A dimension of experience that is available right now, when you stop clinging to the self that you think you are. The deathless is not somewhere else. It is here, hidden beneath the noise of your own wanting and fearing. It is the awareness in which all experience appears and disappears, itself untouched by any appearance or disappearance. Samuel sat on that porch and touched it for the first time. The fear did not vanish forever. It would return. But it had lost its absolute grip. He had seen through it. He had died before dying. And in that death, he had found something that could not die. And so we arrive where we began. Not at a destination, but at a return. You have spent these hours with Carmen and Daniel, Nora and Marcus, Yuki and Amir, Claire and Victor and Samuel. Their struggles are your struggles, dressed in different clothes, but arising from the same human heart that beats in your chest. The longing to be free from suffering. The longing to find peace. The longing to finally feel at home in your own life. The Buddha did not offer a doctrine to believe. He offered a path to walk. A path of attention. A path of noticing. A path of coming home to the present moment again and again, no matter how many times you wander away. The wandering is not failure. It is the path. Each time you notice you have wandered, you have already returned. Each time you see the thought, the fear, the wanting, you have already stepped out of its grip. The practice is not perfection. The practice is returning. Gently, patiently, compassionately, returning. So here is the only question that matters now. What will you do with the next moment of your life? Will you spend it reaching for somewhere else? Or will you spend it being fully where you already are? The choice is always available. It is available now. In this breath. In this sound. In this simple, ordinary, miraculous moment of being alive. Feel your body where it rests. Feel the breath moving through you. Notice the sounds that come and go, the silence beneath them. This is it. This is what you have been seeking. Not in some future moment. Not in some perfected version of yourself. Here. Now. Already present. Already complete. The Buddha's final words were simple. All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence. Strive not to become something else. Strive to remember what you already are. Strive to return to this moment, this breath, this life. It is enough. You are enough. Thank you for your presence. Take this quiet with you. It is what you are.